wherever it is you are always representing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're always representing. And one of my biggest frustrations with the Christian community at large in America, in its broadest strokes, is that there's been too much bad behavior by Christians. Just too much behavior. To me, it's really hard to find a good reason to act bad if you're a Christian. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really almost a bigger concern than the issues for me, is not how we're going to resolve this issue, but how are we going to represent while we talk about these issues. How are we going to maintain a godliness in that? And because, I'm afraid that Christianity is becoming more and more identified politically instead of morally, and righteously in our culture, and so that to me is another topic, another dilemma, but it also kind of weaves its way in and out of our conversations pretty often. And to me, when we start kind of tap dancing, trying to justify bad behavior, we're already halfway to a bad place.
Yeah.
If I'm having to really make a very convoluted case for why it's okay for me to act this way when it's obviously not a good way to act, all right, man, you are 9/10 of the way towards a bad position, because God is fairly clear that He wants us to represent Him well.
Yeah, and I think it is one of the harder things,
which is what I want our conversations to be.
It is one of the harder things to navigate, is essentially keeping, when should political and faithful be separated? Mm-hmm. Because the fact is that we are a nation built on Judeo-Christian values. Mm-hmm. So they do have a foundation there. But I am more and more of the belief that if you cannot make a secular argument for something, and if your only opposition is based on a spiritual argument, I'm not sure that it belongs in the political sphere.
It's a tough decision.
I think it belongs in your church. It belongs in your family. Absolutely. But for instance, big anti-abortion person, if you cannot make a secular anti-abortion argument, then you shouldn't be arguing that it should be illegal. If your only argument that abortion should be illegal,
if it's just secular.
No, but I'm saying if you're just someone who says God doesn't approve of abortion and that's your only argument, then you know what? I'm not going to support that you make it into a law either. Now, I think there is plenty secular, non-religious arguments to say that abortion should be illegal. But my point is that it should be illegal based on those secular arguments. You need, at some point, you got to say you can't only use spiritual arguments for worldly government. You have to be able to make that foundation because frankly, America may be built on Judeo-Christian values. We're not a Christian country. And I don't think God ever intended. I mean, we even see in the nation of Israel, God wasn't advocating for there to be a king when Israel was being made in the Old Testament. Yeah, that wasn't.
He even told them it'll go badly before it's done.
Government is not. Government and faith are not supposed to.
Actually, it was, but it was according to how God had constructed it. Their request for a king, the complete request was, we want a king the way all the other nations around us have a king.
Yeah.
And God granted their desire.
And
even though He warned them and said this is not going to go well. And it didn't.
And there
would be 43 kings after that.
Let's see. David was good.
Well, Saul started out good and then kind of went bad.
David
was the gold standard. In fact, Jesus is even called the son of David. Solomon started out well, but then got influenced by idolatry.
Hezekiah, Josiah.
What you have then is north and south, each with 20 kings. In the north, after the Civil War, there's not a single really good king. And in the south, in Judah, there's maybe 5 that you could really say was a good king.
Yeah.
And they suffered the consequences of that.
Eventually it led to them as a nation being destroyed.
Yeah, they were, at least being eradicated at that time. They exist again. But the point is they took what God had in mind and said, we can do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it created a dilemma for them that they could not escape.
And I think that...
And then they had a bunch of kings over them that weren't their kings.
Yeah, and I think that this is something you talk about, that then you do have the problem of people being so willing to put their faith in the political sphere when maybe there needs to be more of a push of people saying, be concerned about the politics in the world around you.
And be active to whatever degree you can.
But your faith is in God. The foundation for your life is in your faith in God.
Well, if our happiness is dependent on human beings in this world, our happiness is going to look like a heart monitor. Just wouldn't it be nice to be able to transcend that to where my contentment, and I'm not talking about happy in the sense of giddy worldly happiness. I'm talking about the Bible idea of happiness. Wouldn't it be nice if my joy and my contentment was based on something that could not be taken away, no matter what this world does?